We need more agility, not more security theater. Grant's words hung in the conference room like smoke. My name is Marcus Liu, 40 years old, lead security architect at Nexera Labs in Seattle, Washington. For 9 years, I'd built and maintained the security infrastructure protecting financial data for over 300 clients. I'd seen 4 CTOs come and go. Grant Phelan was the 5th, and after just 2 weeks, he'd already decided I was the problem. These protocols are outdated, he continued, flipping through my quarterly security assessment. We're losing deployment velocity. Our competitors are moving twice as fast. I kept my voice level. Those competitors have also had breaches. Everyone has breaches. Grant waved his hand dismissively. It's about recovery, not prevention. The 6 other team leads nodded along. Nobody wanted to contradict the new boss. Nobody except me. Our clients trust us specifically because we haven't had a breach, I said. The financial sector has different requirements than what? The places I've worked before? Grant's smile didn't reach his eyes. BlackRock, Citigroup, JP Morgan. I'm familiar with financial security requirements, Marcus. What he didn't understand was that our system wasn't standard. I'd built custom security layers after the board refused to invest in enterprise solutions. Proprietary firewall rules, custom IDS patterns, a homegrown access control system. All documented, but the documentation was sparse because they'd never approved time for proper knowledge transfer. I'd like to walk you through why these particular... We don't have time for that today. Grant closed his laptop. Everyone stretched thin getting the new client portal ready. Let's table the security discussion. After the meeting, Diane from product development caught me in the hallway. You okay? That was rough. I'm fine. I wasn't. Grant's just trying to make his mark, she said. Give him time to settle in. But 3 days later, I found my access to the security logging server restricted. When I asked about it, the help desk said it was a new policy directive from the CTO's office. Security logs were being consolidated into the general IT monitoring system, a system I'd repeatedly flagged as inadequate for detailed forensic analysis. That night, I backed up my documentation and security notes to my personal drive. Not company data, just my processes, methods, and system architecture. Something told me I might need it soon. The next morning, my security dashboard showed 3 unusual login attempts flagged by my custom monitoring tool. Nobody else seemed to notice. I'd come to Nexera after 5 years at a government contractor. Back then, the company was a scrappy startup with ambitious founders and more vision than funding. I was employee number 26. Now we had over 300 people across 2 office buildings. My dad had been skeptical when I left my stable government-adjacent job. For a startup? In this economy? But I believed in what we were building. Security-first financial data management before fintech became a buzzword. I'd taken a pay cut to join, compensated with equity that would be worth something if we succeeded. And we did. For years, I worked 80-hour weeks building our security architecture. While other team leads fought for budget and headcount, I made do with less, developing custom solutions when we couldn't afford off-the-shelf products. The compromise was always the same. I'd build it myself, but there was never time to properly document or train others. That's a bottleneck, our previous CTO Jennifer had warned. What happens if you get hit by a bus? Then whoever replaces me better be good at reading code comments, I'd joked. Jennifer understood the technical debt we were accumulating, but she protected me from the board's constant push for faster releases and more features. We had a rhythm. I'd identify risks, she'd translate them to business impact, and we'd find compromises that kept our security posture strong. Then Nexera got acquired by Vertec Holdings. Jennifer was replaced by Grant, whose mandate was clear: accelerate growth, streamline operations, unlock trapped value, as he put it in his all-hands introduction. Within a month, I noticed the changes. Security reviews were shortened to accommodate more aggressive release cycles. Penetration tests were rescheduled, then scaled back. My team's authorization requests for security upgrades were deprioritized. Diane saw it too. Over lunch in the courtyard, she confided, "They're pushing our sprint capacity to the breaking point. QA is getting squeezed to meet deadlines." "What about the compliance requirements?" I asked. "We can't cut corners there." She shrugged. "Grant says we're reinterpreting the requirements." His words, not mine. That evening, my direct report, James, stopped by my desk. "Something weird," he said. "I got questioned about our firewall rule update process. Grant wants to know why changes take so long to implement." "Did you explain the testing requirements?" "Yeah, but he kept asking if there were workarounds we could use for emergency situations." After James left, I sat staring at my monitor. 9 years of careful work, and now they wanted shortcuts. I could feel it all beginning to unravel. The calendar invite came on Thursday morning. Security restructuring discussion. Marcus Liu, Grant Phelan. Conference room B, 2 p.m. I spent the morning checking my security dashboards one last time. Everything was running as designed. The custom alert system I'd built was monitoring for unusual access patterns. The segmentation between client data repositories was intact. The backup verification tests were all green. At 2 p.m. sharp, I walked into conference room B. Grant was already there with Heather from HR. "Marcus, have a seat." His tone was professional, empty. "I'll get straight to the point. We're restructuring the security operation model, transitioning to a more distributed approach." I said nothing. The presence of HR told me everything I needed to know. "Your position as centralized security architect is being eliminated," he continued. "We're embedding security functions within each product team." "Who will maintain the core security infrastructure?" I asked. "We're moving to cloud-native tools with third-party management," Grant explained. "More scalable, less dependent on tribal knowledge." Tribal knowledge. My 9 years of building custom solutions to protect client data reduced to an organizational anti-pattern. Heather slid a folder across the table. "This outlines the severance package. 2 months salary, extended health benefits, and accelerated vesting of your equity from the acquisition." I opened the folder, scanned the numbers. Fair, even generous. This decision had been made well above Grant's level. He was just the messenger. "We'll need your access cards and credentials before you leave today," Grant added. "James will handle any knowledge transfer over the next 2 weeks. You don't need to come in, but be available by phone." "James doesn't know the entire system," I said. "Nobody does except me." Grant's expression hardened slightly. "Everything's documented, Marcus. We've reviewed your wikis and repositories." Documented, yes. But understanding the documentation required context I'd never had time to provide. The board had repeatedly denied my requests for a proper knowledge transfer project. "Move faster, we'll clean it up later," had been the refrain for years. "I understand," I said, closing the folder. I wrote down my passwords on a notepad. Domain admin, VPN, security console, monitoring systems. 9 years of protecting this company's data distilled into 8 credential sets. Grant nodded as I pushed the notepad across the table. "I know change is hard, but this is the right direction for the company." I handed over my access card and stood up. "I hope you're right." Walking out through the lobby, I passed the wall of framed awards and press mentions. Nexora Labs, most secure financial data platform 5 years running. My work, my legacy. I didn't feel anger, just a hollow certainty that they'd made a catastrophic mistake. Not firing me. Companies reorganize all the time. The mistake was thinking they understood what they were dismantling. In my car, I turned off my phone and drove to Lake Washington. I sat watching the water for an hour, calculating how long it would take before the first security incident. Not if, but when. 2 days later, my prediction came true faster than even I had anticipated. My personal phone lit up with texts from James. "System's acting weird. Multiple alert triggers. Can you call?" I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let Grant discover firsthand what happens when you dismantle security infrastructure you don't understand. But 9 years of professional instinct won out. I called James. "Thank God," he answered. We've got unusual traffic patterns on the Eastern Gateway. The monitoring system is flagging it, but nobody knows what to do. What's Grant saying? I asked. He's in meetings with the board all day. The IT team is saying it's probably just a false positive from the automated rule updates. Automated rule updates that I had designed to adapt to emerging threat patterns. If they were triggering alerts, something was wrong. Did anyone check the second-level verification logs? I asked. Silence. The what? I closed my eyes. James, there's a secondary validation system that confirms alert patterns before raising flags. If both systems are triggering, it's not a false positive. Where do I find that? I walked him through accessing the hidden dashboard. The credentials weren't in my handover notes because it was a system I'd built during a weekend hackathon 3 years ago. It had caught 2 potential breaches since then. Oh shit, James whispered. Both systems are lit up like Christmas trees. You need to isolate the Eastern Gateway immediately, I said. Power down the external connection and fail over to the backup line. I don't have that authorization, James replied. Nobody gave me the admin rights to network hardware. Of course they hadn't. In their rush to remove me, they'd forgotten to transfer the full scope of my access. You need to get Grant or someone from senior IT, I said. I'll try. Can you come in? Just to help sort this out? I hesitated. That's not my job anymore, James. Please, Marcus. I don't know what I'm doing here. Part of me wanted to help. The other part knew better. Call Grant. Tell him exactly what I told you. I'll be available if he wants to contact me directly. 3 hours later, Grant called. Marcus. His voice was tight. We're having some security issues. I heard. James seems to think it's serious. Our regular monitoring isn't showing much. That's because the regular monitoring wasn't designed to catch sophisticated intrusions. I'd built a separate system for that. What do you want from me, Grant? He cleared his throat. We could use your insight. Maybe a phone consultation? You want me to consult on the security system you just decided wasn't necessary? No one said security wasn't necessary, he replied sharply. We're restructuring how it's managed. How's that working out so far? The line went quiet for a moment. We're prepared to pay your contractor rate for assistance. I smiled grimly. My contractor rate is $800 per hour, 4-hour minimum, paid up front, plus a signed statement acknowledging that I'll have no liability for outcomes. I expected him to balk. Instead, he simply said, I'll have the paperwork drawn up. How soon can you start? I can't, I replied. I've accepted another position. Non-compete clause in my severance prevents me from accessing your systems now that I'm joining a different financial security firm. This was a lie. I hadn't accepted another job yet, and the non-compete had exemptions for consulting work. But Grant didn't know that. Marcus, this is serious. Yes, I agreed. It is. I ended the call and turned my phone off again. Whatever was happening at Nexora, it wasn't my problem anymore. They had made their choice. The next morning, I checked the tech news sites out of habit. Nothing about Nexora yet. But by noon, the first headline appeared on a cybersecurity blog. Financial data firm Nexora Labs investigating potential security incident. My phone had 7 missed calls from various Nexora numbers. 3 from Grant, 2 from James, 1 from Diane, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I listened to the voicemails. Grant. Marcus, we need to talk. The situation has escalated. Call me back immediately. James. It's bad. Really bad. Someone's in the system and we can't lock them out. Please call. The last voicemail was from Stephen Wright, Nexora's CEO. Marcus, this is Stephen. Whatever happened between you and Grant, we need your help right now. Our client's data is at risk. Please call me directly. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold. 9 years building a security system, and it had taken less than 72 hours for it to be compromised after I left. Not because the system was flawed, but because no one understood how to maintain it. I called Stephen back. Thank God, he answered. Marcus, we have a situation. I've heard, I replied. What's happening exactly? Someone's in our systems. They've bypassed the perimeter security somehow. IT says they're moving between client databases, but they can't figure out how. Grant says something about the internal segmentation failing. The internal segmentation. My custom-built data isolation system that prevented lateral movement between client repositories. It was designed to automatically lock down if it detected unusual access patterns. Has the auto-lockdown triggered? I asked. Silence. What auto-lockdown? I closed my eyes. Stephen, there's an automatic quarantine system built into the segmentation controls. If unauthorized movement is detected, it should isolate each client database automatically. No one's mentioned any quarantine system. Hold on. I heard muffled conversation, then Stephen came back. Grant says there's nothing in the documentation about an auto-quarantine, because the board had repeatedly cut my requests to properly document the security systems. Emergency custom solution, they'd called it when approving the bare minimum budget. We'll properly resource it later. Later never came. The system exists, I said. I built it 3 years ago after the Threadbank incident. More muffled conversation. Then Grant's voice came on the line. Marcus, where exactly is this quarantine system? We can't find it in any of the infrastructure diagrams. It's not in the diagrams because it was implemented as an emergency measure during the security incident 3 years ago. The board approved it as a temporary solution that became permanent. Check the minutes from the emergency board meeting in August. Another pause. We're looking. Yes, here it is. Approved emergency security measures as proposed by Liu. But there are no technical details. Because the board didn't want technical details, they wanted the problem solved. I could almost hear Grant's frustration through the phone. Can you just tell us how to activate it? It should activate automatically. If it hasn't, something's been changed in the configuration. Nothing's been changed, Grant insisted. I thought for a moment. Check the scheduled tasks on the security management server. There's a verification job that runs every 6 hours to confirm the quarantine system is operational. A few minutes of silence then. The task is there, but it's disabled. Who disabled it? I asked, already knowing the answer. Grant's voice was quiet. It was disabled as part of the security restructuring. We consolidated scheduled tasks to reduce system overhead. They had dismantled my security system piece by piece, not understanding how the components worked together. Now they were facing the consequences. While Nexora's nightmare unfolded, I received a LinkedIn message from Elaine Hudson, CTO at Sentinel Security Group. Heard you might be available. We should talk. Sentinel was one of the top security firms in the country. I'd followed their work for years, admired their approach. The message couldn't have been better timed. We met for coffee that afternoon at a small cafe in Pike Place Market. Elaine was straightforward. Word travels fast in security circles. Nexora's situation is unfortunate. I sipped my coffee. I don't know the details. I'm not there anymore. She nodded. Of course, but I know your reputation. 9 years, no successful breaches. That's impressive. Until now, I said. From what I hear, the breach happened after significant changes to your security architecture. Changes you didn't implement. I didn't ask how she knew that. The security community was small, and news traveled quickly. We're expanding our financial sector practice, she continued. We need someone who understands the unique challenges, someone who's built custom solutions and knows how to manage complex security infrastructures. The job offer was generous. Double my Nexora salary plus equity with a team of 8 security engineers reporting to me. The catch? I had to start immediately. I should tell you, I said. My severance includes a non-compete clause. Elaine smiled. Our legal team has reviewed standard Nexora severance agreements. The non-compete only applies to directly competing financial data services, not security consulting firms. We're not a competitor to Nexora. We'd potentially be a vendor to them. That evening, as I was reviewing Sentinel's offer letter, My phone rang again. Nexora's main switchboard number. Hello? Marcus, it's Diane. Have you seen the news? I hadn't. I opened my laptop and checked the major tech sites. The headlines were everywhere now. Nexora Labs confirms major data breach, client information compromised. Financial services firm, Nexora suffers catastrophic security failure. Nexora stock plummets 28% following confirmation of data breach. How bad? I asked. Bad, Diane replied. The intruders got into at least 40 client databases before we managed to shut down external access completely. The system is in chaos. Nobody can figure out how to restore the security controls properly. What's Grant saying? Grant's not saying anything. He's in non-stop crisis meetings with the board. They've called in an external security firm for incident response. An external firm that would have to decipher my custom security architecture with no documentation and no background. They'd figure it out eventually, but it would take time. Time during which Nexora's reputation was being destroyed. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. For everyone affected. It's not your fault, Diane said. You tried to warn them. The next morning I signed Sentinel's offer letter. By noon I was sitting in their downtown Seattle office, getting set up with new equipment. My first assignment? Help develop a post-breach recovery framework for financial institutions. That evening I received one final text from Stephen Wright. The board would like to discuss bringing you back. Name your terms. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. Instead, I emailed Elaine my first draft of the recovery framework. The subject line, Preventing the Next Nexora. 1 month after the breach, I was settling into my role at Sentinel when Bloomberg published an investigative piece titled, The Dismantling of Nexora, How Cost-Cutting Compromised Security. The article detailed how Nexora's new management had systematically stripped away security controls in pursuit of faster development cycles. Internal emails obtained by the reporters showed Grant had disabled key security mechanisms despite warnings from the IT staff. James was quoted anonymously, describing how my custom security architecture had been dismantled without proper understanding. The most damning revelation came from board meeting minutes. 3 years earlier, I had requested budget for proper documentation and knowledge transfer of the security systems. The request had been denied 6 consecutive quarters, labeled as non-essential administrative overhead. That same day, 3 of Nexora's largest clients publicly announced they were terminating their contracts. Their press releases cited irreconcilable concerns about data security practices and loss of trust in Nexora's security governance. I didn't need to watch the stock price to know what was happening. LinkedIn told the story as Nexora employees began updating their profiles en masse, signaling the exodus. Grant Phelan updated his profile too. Strategic Technology Advisor, it now read. No company listed. His tenure at Nexora had lasted less than 3 months. At Sentinel, we received inquiries from several former Nexora clients looking for security advisory services. During one call, a client's CIO asked if I had been involved in Nexora's security architecture. Yes, I answered simply. We thought so, he replied. That's why we're calling you first. I took no pleasure in Nexora's downfall. A company I'd helped build was crumbling, and hundreds of good people would lose their jobs. But I felt a quiet vindication. Security wasn't just overhead to be cut. It was foundational. 6 months later, Sentinel had grown its financial security practice dramatically. Many of our new clients were former Nexora customers, and several of my old colleagues had joined our team. James was now my senior security engineer. Diane led our client communications department. Nexora itself had been acquired for a fraction of its former value, essentially purchased for its client list and technology patents. The brand name was retired. The security breach a cautionary tale in business school case studies. I ran into Stephen Wright at an industry conference in Vancouver. We found ourselves alone at the hotel bar after the day's sessions. No hard feelings? He asked, raising his glass. None, I answered truthfully. Business decisions have consequences, some more than others. He nodded. For what it's worth, I fought against those changes. Got outvoted. That's boards for you, I said. Your new firm seems to be doing well. We are. Stephen finished his drink. You know what the irony is? We're paying Sentinel 3 times your salary for security consulting now. I smiled slightly. The cost of security always gets paid, either up front or after the fact. After is always more expensive. As he left, Stephen paused. Grant landed at Vertifin, pushing the same move fast philosophy. Good luck to them, I said. Back in Seattle, I walked into Sentinel's offices on Monday morning to find Elaine waiting with news. Vertifin had suffered a security incident over the weekend. Their CISO was requesting emergency assistance. Want to take the lead on this one? She asked. I shook my head. Send the junior team. They need the experience. That afternoon, I finalized our new client onboarding documentation. Clear, comprehensive, meticulously detailed. The section title, Understanding the Full Security Architecture, the Foundation of Trust. My father had been right about one thing. Job security isn't about where you work. It's about being the person who knows how to prevent disasters that others don't even see coming.